Hello there, everyone. My name is Antojai, and I teach new earthers how to change their lifestyle into ascension permanently. So, today we're going to be talking about manifesting real permanent shifts in your reality by changing again your paradigm and your understanding of how your reality works. Before we get started, don't forget to press subscribe, share it with as many people as you can, comment on your experiences and your understandings of this, and always check out our Patreon temple so you can keep growing and you can help the community with your energy. All right, so we're going to be in this centerpiece right here, and I'm going to actually switch over my tool. This is where we're at, okay? So as we're looking at that, usually when we're doing manifesting shifts, whether we're manifesting healing or we're trying to manifest like personal reality shifts in our reality, we're always told to boop, boops, dive into your inner self and do some inner work. All right. So usually that can seem really, really scary. It can be really intimidating at times. Let me see if I can move this one window over here. And sometimes when it can be like this like rabbit hole, like you jump into doing all this work to like just heal your limitations. They tell you you got to work on your inner world. So it starts off with this spiral, and you work into inner work, and then from that inner work takes you into the unknown, and then the unknown eventually opens the doors to whether you do soul retrieval or you start hanging out in the astral, or there's something else that you can't explain, or you start understanding that you have to deal with karma, and then that can take you into basically understanding very similar concepts that will all eventually lead you back to space. And you can do a bunch of energy work while you're doing that, but that eventually will take you a bunch of years and time and energy to do all this inner work, which eventually will get you to one very singular answer. Okay. And now I'm going to move my thing back over here. The one singular answer is this. If you don't want to spend years like I have trying to get over my, childhood trauma, from trying to get rid of my, other issues that I went on through life and karma, if you don't want to deal with all of that, here we go, come back to point zero. This is our point zero. Before you even step into this whole cluster of doing your inner work, okay, diving into the inner, let's change our perspective to the opposite side of the coin. If you've seen my previous lectures on healing and changing your abundance factors, this box right here is always going to come back to these core principles. Your fear of the unknown, which will always stop you, your experiences that you've had in your life, okay, your ego, and at this point in this diagram, we're going to also say it's your subconscious. And then that always comes back to your beliefs about reality. Okay? Your beliefs are above reality. So when we're starting to do manifesting shifts, it's natural for us to want to step inside of our inner work to get rid of these things. But how do we classify the world? Okay, that's what you really have to think about. We're now diving again into manifesting you out of some of the most core concepts that have stopped us due to the human condition. So the human condition forces us to think that reality, what happens from the outside in, right? And the ancient texts tell us that we have to dive from all of our experiences into ourselves, that we need to then let all of our experiences be affected by the subconscious, which then eventually will reverberate back in here, which will then take and change our beliefs as we explore the unknown, and the unknown will then eventually change our beliefs, and our beliefs in our reality will then eventually come back and change our entire experience, and then we can, change what is happening from what has always happened to us generally in the past. That's pretty much how the human condition understands reality as a whole. But I want you to really remember this, okay? This outer perspective out here is actually the past. So when we're thinking, humans are linear, okay? So humans think kind of like directly straight. It's a natural habit that people have until you raise your consciousness. So ultimately, all of this is always saying that the past is always affecting everything that ends up happening back and forth and up and down and whatever. The past is what's controlling all of this, and you're just a slave to that. So how do you end up, instead of going on this rabbit trail and then having to do all of this goose hunting, like, how do you end up just really back phrasing all of this? Well, I'm going to take a second here and I'm going to erase some of these core concepts. Okay, instead of taking the avenue that we had originally thought about, I'm just going to do this right here. We'll do the best we can to clean it up. All right, then we're going to really quick reconstruct the box. So we have our experiences going down. We're going to put the centerpiece and we're going to say that's us. All right, so now let's change our human conditioning to, I like to call it, star condition. Okay. All right, we're going to call it the star condition. And actually, let me put that a little bit more. Boodoosh. Star condition. Our star condition would say that we understand how the baseline reality of the human experience is telling us how, we're supposed to be working. The ancients have given us this understanding that we have to do inner work because, yes, in all reality, that line of understanding really just changes things. Well, the masters that have basically given us knowledge across time in many different spaces have given knowledge based off of the consciousness level of the people of that time. Okay, so you're not one of the rules to any master or any messenger that comes from anywhere in the cosmos is that you cannot share too much that might blow the current consciousness level's mind. Like, there's a few of us that naturally do that on the regular, but because of it, like, it's a different kind of lifestyle. Like, we're teaching certain things, and even us, like, I know a lot of things that I cannot share with humanity. I can only share with other star people. So as a star person, we're looking at this aspect of how do we change what we've always known to be? Well, you first of all have to change, and this might sound hard and more confusing than what other people are going to tell you. In order for you to change your ego and your subconscious, the easiest thing you need to do is just start healing the experiences, all right? Healing the trauma. And you might be like, well, if you're starting from the experiences, aren't you just doing this whole entire back and forth again from the previous diagram? No, because instead of you focusing on one trauma at a time, opening up that doorway and that spiral and all of that stuff going on, you're going to let your experience, you're not going to even allow your experience to become something that is completely known. You're going to let your knowledge of something is there that is stopping the human vessel from experiencing the star essence that I am. So immediately, you don't care what it is that needs to be deleted. Whatever trauma or experiences that have been existing in your system, who cares what it is, you wholeheartedly believe and own that this is going to get deleted out of your reality. You don't care what it has to be, because a lot of us have to be like, oh, well, I have to focus on my childhood trauma, right? Like, I had to focus on my childhood trauma. And as you're doing that, there's a thought. Maybe you start off with like your mom abused you, that mom abusing takes you to another memory. That memory takes you to another memory. That memory takes you to another memory, which then might open up two more memories. And all of a sudden you realize that something has to do with your dad that actually was also connected to mom, and then all of a sudden that'll do that, and you'll go on this goose hunt again looking for it. So instead of doing all of that, instead of freaking out and looking for all of this crap, you're just gonna say, all right, I don't know what I'm looking for. I just know that I have this issue that needs to get out of my system. I don't care what it is, and I don't need to necessarily know what it is. I just know that there's something there that's holding me back, and I know that I can delete it by not having to reference it. The human condition forces you to have to do linear, okay? From point A to point B to point C to point D to point E. And then eventually you're going to notice through your healing that your linearity doesn't exist, because there's a bunch of other things that you weren't even looking at while you were following the purple dot that is still very much so connected in some way to all that other stuff. So you're going to be spending time healing yourself, lots of time healing yourself. And then all of a sudden, as you dive deeper and you're like, oh, wow, that's not even like the full spectrum of it, like, oh, these sub things were connected as well. Well, wow, check it out. Then you end up opening another can of worms of all these other things that are connected, and that now you have to somehow figure out and dismantle. So then it becomes like this huge project versus you just being like, I don't need to know the information. The human condition is what's going to force you to say you need to know the information, which is essentially just taking everything in here and seriously complicating it. All of this is now becoming complex reality. And if you've read the law of one states that everything, all of this, is connected to one source thing. It's all connected to one. All of the illusion of the separation of all of it is connected to something. The more you try to understand any of these interconnections, you'll even start creating new connections between other lifetimes, and you'll start seeing that everything becomes more complex instead of you just saying like, okay, I'm going to do this all at once. That's basically the gist of what I'm trying to get at here with you. So we say that we don't care what experiences, we don't need to know what experiences are in our system that stem from our childhood trauma. I know and I believe that I'm deleting it at this moment, even though I'm not referencing it and having to go and review it from my reality. And as you do that, when you're doing your inner energy work, you then directly dive into the subconscious ego, which then allows you to immediately, like if this is you over on the left hand side starting, and your original understanding was all the lower stuff right behind you, and how you were going to originally take everything that you know about healing yourself, and you would have gone on that ride. Instead of doing all of that, boo, you go right to this main source of it all. And then that's it. You do a deep dive into your subconscious, because your subconscious is your biggest enemy. That is the one thing that people don't pay attention to. The universe is dual. If your consciousness is dual, and quantum science has told us and psychology has told us that our subconscious does most of the work that tells us how we live our reality, your subconscious is essentially at this moment right now your worst enemy. And to let your subconscious know, okay, if you let them know what you're going for, you're going to automatically experience, as you try to like If you want to say, okay, I want to start off at point A, you're thinking linearly, and then you're going to try to dive into your subconscious, and it's going to try to take you right here because it doesn't want you to get to the core of it all. It doesn't actually want you to realize that the truth of the matter is all of the whole entire system. Okay? So what am I saying? If you haven't been paying attention, when we heal and we're trying to experience ourselves as a human understanding energy work and healing themselves, you try to always tackle one of these areas. And then it opens up a whole entire plethora of mess that ends up manifesting in this area right over here. The only way that you seriously can target everything is by understanding that you need to kind of like sidestep the box. Notice the shape, okay? That you're like cutting through the box's experience. So while you're doing that, you're automatically doing all of that work without having to really focus on knowing everything or reliving the experience, which then makes you feel the emotion probably, and then you have to like really deal with that, and then your ego being a secondary consciousness that's working against you, and then having all those like really harsh reality shifts that come with paradigm shifting. Like, you don't have to do all of that anymore. If you already know how to do energy work and you've been working on yourself for a while, if you want to speed up how you're manifesting shifts inside of yourself and healing, take this approach. And then all of a sudden, trust. The biggest issue here that you're going to experience while you're doing this is trust. You need to trust yourself. You need to trust the process. You need to trust that really it is that easy to do this process by just saying, I don't care what it is that I'm focusing on. I know that's my limitation. Get rid of it. Okay. I guarantee you that if you're doing any type of inner work, if you're somebody who's dealing with PTSD, this is the fastest way that you're going to get over your PTSD. Doesn't matter if it's from war or if it's from childhood trauma. If you're dealing with childhood trauma, this is one of the best ways for you to get over it. If you're dealing with insecurity, or if you're dealing with loneliness or anger or anxiety, all of it, doesn't matter what limiting belief it is, you can delete it. First is you having trust. Then you obviously, now you downloaded this file, you do understand what that means. And then bypassing the way you have been working, which is linearly to heal yourself. Okay. So ultimately, what does this all just end up coming back to down here? I wonder what this ends up coming all. Oops, sorry. I ended up having the wrong side. What does this all end up coming back to? Antojai, quantum, healing. Literally, Antojai quantum alchemy, this is one of the first steps that really does change your whole entire thought process on how to heal yourself. You literally end up saving so much time and effort, and you can do this easily with the neurocodes. You can do this with the quantum Reiki. Now, the Antojai alchemy is going to take it to a totally new level. But if you want to put in the work, if you're serious about getting over whatever it is that's bothering you, and you're tired of doing the constant chase from file to file to file to file to file, and you're just frustrated as to why it still persists, and you've probably been working on it for 20 years now you know why. This is the missing piece that has been that's been limiting you from ultimately moving all of those pieces out of the way. Now, when you do this, okay, when you do this, you come back to what? I'm going to take this, I'm going to move it over here. You take it into, again, the quantum field. F-I-E-L-D. Okay, the quantum field, and then you quantum leap. So there's already two really great examples on what you can be expecting when you go through this process. And if you wholeheartedly do it with your whole entire heart and you just go with the flow, you're going to see a massive change. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, share, and always, I'm here sending you so much love. Thank you for being part of the community, and I will catch you in the next one.